Hey everybody, it's Kevin, it is Eric, and it is Bruce, all from RPH Ally. Excited to come over and be able to talk to you guys about something that's interesting and is run into probably a little too often, is workplace harassment and intimidation. We had something that kind of came up in the RPH Ally family talking about this, so we wanted to bring it out and talk about some different perspectives in it and hopefully a few lessons for us to be able to pull together. I'm going to hit the reel and we'll be right back. All right, gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to talk with both of you. And Eric, I'll pass it off to you to kind of talk about, not the details at all, but just kind of exactly what went on in terms of here's some perspectives from one individual. Here's some advice that could be given based on that one perspective. And then some other things that Bruce kind of brought to the conversation that I think can really help us to look at what can happen in the workplace and sometimes what happens wrong with conversation in general. But off to you, bud.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kevin. So yeah, RPH Ally, the peer support channel, is to provide support for all sorts of issues or concerns, no matter what these people are going through. And we see all sorts of different problems on the channel. People bring to us looking for help, and that's great. That's what it's for. Last week, somebody came to us basically really frustrated and irritated and mad that they felt that they were being harassed by their boss to the point where they were looking at leaving their job. They couldn't take it anymore. They came to the channel asking the group, what should I do? What do I do in this situation? It's making me miserable. And a lot of people jumped on and gave a lot of supportive advice, definitely sided with her, gave some suggestions about what you can do to improve your mental health and what you can do to protect yourself as well. And, that's in my perception, like that's what we're here for, is to do. And it was really interesting that Bruce reached out to us and had a different angle that nobody else really looked at. And it was really interesting. And it kind of made me wonder, well, how am I supposed to be thinking about these things? And what Bruce said was something along the lines of, well, how do you guys know that's what's really happening? And it really made me pause. And it was kind of like, I was kind of mind blown. And then I started thinking, well, how do we know? I mean, the best response we can give is based on how good of information we're given to us. Is it our job or our duty to actually go and seek the actual truth? And so, Bruce, we want to bring you on and see, how would you approach that situation if somebody came to you with a concern such as that?
Yeah, and part of what I was trying to get across, Eric, is that there's a difference between support and taking sides. Right. In other words, look, one of the things that I've learned, that we've all learned, is that if we get into it with somebody and we tell somebody else, we have a tendency to edit our stories to make ourselves look good and the other look bad, right? I'm not saying that's what she did. I'm just saying I don't know. Yeah. Right. And I'm saying as soon as we take sides and say, yeah, he is acting like a jerk and you ought to do something about it, right? We're presuming that what she's telling us is the unedited truth, right? And that's not necessary. And saying to her, yes, he's being a jerk, you shouldn't put up with that, can function to cause her to become self-righteous. In other words, I call this army formation. I'm going to tell a whole bunch of people what a jerk this guy is, and I'm going to get them to agree with me that he's a jerk. And she may end up doing something. She may not end up doing something. But on the other hand, do we really want her to say to him, and I'm part of an organization called RPH Ally, and they agree with me. Yeah. And the reason that's problematic is because we don't know that what she's told us is exactly what happened. What support means is to say something to the effect of, you're obviously very upset about how you've been treated. Okay? Here's the other, let me interject this. I could tell a joke to the two of you, and let's just say, for argument's sake, Eric, you might get offended by the joke, and Kevin thinks it's really funny. What's the truth? The truth is both. The truth is that based upon your values, both of your values, Kevin, you're offended. I'm sorry, Eric, you're offended. Kevin thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
And the point is, for me to be supportive, if you said to me, Eric, I'm offended, I feel offended, I need to be saying, tell me more about that. What's got you offended? What those kinds of things. So the point is that what's supportive to me would have been to say to her, it sounds like the way you've been talked to has been offensive to you. Here are some steps. And Kevin, you even mentioned one. You said it would be good, if at all possible, to have a conversation with him, with somebody else there, if at all possible, right? That's a supportive step. Another supportive step is to document this. And if you feel like you're being harassed, if you feel like you're being denigrated in what you know and what you do, start to document it. And if need be, take it to HR. Those are all things that you're supportive without taking sides.
Yeah, and it was interesting because those are all things that were said, and you agreed with all that. So you weren't saying, no, you guys did it wrong. You guys said, no, you did all those points correctly, but you missed this one piece. And so, what I started thinking is, by digging a little bit deeper to really get the truth, how does that benefit this person? Because I imagine that once we start asking those questions, maybe they'll start to look at it differently, maybe a little bit more objectively. And maybe they'll see that, maybe this boss, for example, it's just an example, maybe he's not harassing me. Maybe he thinks he's being funny and he actually really likes me. He doesn't know he's doing it. So let's take a look at that a little bit closer. And how can asking more questions actually help this person directly, as everybody else was trying to help this person?
And one of the things you can do, if you wanted to go down that path, okay? If you wanted to go down the path of asking more questions, you could always ask some open-ended questions like, could you tell me a little bit more about the context? What did he say, and how did it offend you, right? Again, neither of those is still taking sides. I just don't think, even if you end up deciding this guy really is a jerk and is harassing her, our job in support is to help her know what she should do if she feels like this is happening. Our job is not to agree with her or disagree with her. It's to say, if you feel like this is, we don't know their history. So our job is to help her know what kinds of things that she can do if she feels like she's being harassed or denigrated in any way in the workplace.
Yeah, I think just even pulling out, Bruce, any hers, he's, hims, or thems, whoever it might be, there's multiple individuals in the storyline or plot. Whenever there is an issue, kind of pulling it more generalized, whenever there's an issue in the workplace, there's multiple perspectives with that issue. The thing for me that's the most important is, what do you want the end result to be? Like, what are you looking for? And that's why mediation is so important, because if the end result and goal is to be able to work together, to be successfully communicative, be able to avoid issues that are pulling away from the overall workforce and the success of what you're trying to do, like, there's the ability to have that end goal in mind and be able to work through that process to get to it. And so I feel like I like the Army, kind of thought process. You've also heard phrases like mob mentality. Like, it's like, oh, this is a problem. We need to address this problem, instead of, that's a human being, right? And there's another human being, and we all have different perspectives and ways about going about life. And if we have to work together, there's a lot of cultural things or ways that we even talk to each other that's different. I mean, I know that, interestingly, oftentimes I am much more abrupt than Sean, right? And so we have ways of being able to communicate that's just Sometimes we have to work out things together because that's the way Kevin says it. Does he mean to be hurtful or mean behind it? No. That's
and here's the other thing. We, by all means, we should be empathic.
Yeah.
We should say things like, you sound like you've really been hurt in this situation, right?
Yeah.
That still doesn't mean that he necessarily did or said something that was harassment.
Sure.
Right? In the same way that one of you could be offended by a joke that I tell and the other can think it's really funny. The other thing I wanted to be clear about, Eric, too, is that I did not feel like what anybody did was wrong so much as I don't think taking sides and being supportive is the same thing.
Yep. Yeah. And I definitely appreciate you distinguishing the difference between those two.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of on this point as we're wrapping things up, what can we all and the viewers take away from this? If they're the ones who are feeling like that they're harassed, and instead of just thinking that the person doing this is at fault and they're all bad, what would you suggest to that person to do as far as taking a look at things differently, to maybe get a different perspective on it?
Yeah, I would, of course, again, I would suggest talking to the person directly first,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I try to help people with is to make I statements, meaning I feel hurt when you say these kinds of things.
Yeah.
I feel put down when you say these kinds of things. Notice the difference between that and, you hurt me, you put me down.
Yeah.
I own my feelings. Feelings are the result of the meaning we assign to what happens to us. So when I say I feel hurt when you say these kinds of things, I'm taking ownership.
Yeah, so it's a lot different than saying you hurt me when you did this.
Correct.
Right? That's the difference.
Right.
Saying I feel hurt when you do this versus you hurt me when you do this.
And it's okay to say I don't, when you talk to me in this particular way, I don't like it.
Yep.
Yeah,
and that's healthy conversation for any type of conversation. Whether you're talking to your boss, a coworker, you're talking to a friend, or you're talking to your spouse or significant other. I mean, that's a great takeaway on how to handle the situation.
And if she doesn't, if it's possible for her to have somebody else there as a third party, that would help.
Yep.
Again, if he doesn't respond well to it, then I think the idea of being able to start noting this stuff, and if you have an HR department, go to the HR department. I have a really good friend that was in a major corporation who was being harassed by his boss, and enough people ended up going to HR that the person was removed. So that's why we have HR departments, to back it up.
Generally, what I've heard in my experience, the HR departments are very supportive for these individuals because they do not like these kind of things happening in their workplace, and they will do what they need to do for what's right for that person. And the last thing I don't want to happen in any of these situations is where that harassment to occur and then the person to feel so bad that they go and quit their job, just because they're miserable working with this person every day or whatever it is. And a lot of people feel that way. They feel like that's their only option is to go find work somewhere else. And this person even said they've been working here for a long time. They developed relationships with the people they work with, and they really liked it. Yet they were thinking about leaving because of the way the boss was treating this person. And that that made me so mad because that's not right. That's not what should happen. So for everybody listening, if that does happen to you or that's happening to you now, there are other avenues to take besides finding a new job. Like
I think the one
documentation, have conversations, get HR involved, and hopefully things will improve. So further down the road, hopefully much sooner than later, you can actually not only enjoy going back to work, but have a healthy new relationship with this person where you can, not have those same emotions and experiences day in and day out that you were having before. It's definitely possible.
Start soon, Eric. I mean, I think that's the one thing, Bruce and Eric, that I would have in there is don't let things linger. Don't let things build. in the background. When those things start to come up, that documentation process is necessary to keep yourself safe in several kind of working environments, but also starting that either that personal conversation soon or mediated conversation soon allows it to be more quickly healing and getting over potential things that you might have misinterpreted, or getting to the root cause of something that the other individual may need to change in their overall work processes or what they're doing. And I think that can be a major asset. If we're talking to folks that own companies or in leadership roles, or people that are, thinking about their leaders when they're having this conversation, doing that sooner than later keeps that work culture where it needs to be and avoids it from spiraling, in a direction. But any closing thoughts, Bruce?
Yeah, I would be. Yeah, the only thing I would add is, this idea of how can I support somebody and not take sides is, I mean, it takes practice and skills. There's a fine line we walk. Saying to somebody, harassment in the workplace is not acceptable might be supportive, but saying the guy was a jerk, shouldn't be doing this, we've now crossed the line because we don't know the full situation.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, get all those pieces together, realize some end goals, be able to address it early. Super helpful. So glad we were able to get this conversation going. Eric, you want to tell folks how they can find out more information and connect with us?
Yeah, definitely check us out at www.rphallied.com. It's free to become a member. So if you're not a member already, go over there, check it out. There's different education and support channels you can join. So find what interests you. I would definitely recommend on joining the peer support channel. We do have the most members over there, and there's a lot of valuable advice and a lot of cool things going on. So definitely go check it out. Find us on LinkedIn, find us on Facebook. RPH Allies taking over everywhere.
I love it. No, it's so helpful. Thank you both for that. And we will see you over at rphallied.com, and we can continue the conversation there. Everybody have a wonderful day, and I hope the workplace issues are as easy to solve as possible. Talk to you then.
Bruce, thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.